Good day. What are 5 signs that you're dealing with emotional trauma? And how can you move through this? That's what we're talking about today. My name is Crystal Turner, and I am a psychiatric nurse practitioner who's going holistic because I know to be whole is to be healed. And while we're talking about this, if you could hit the like button and hit the subscribe button for more videos that I will create every week. So, emotional trauma. Let's talk about emotional trauma because there are so many different types of trauma, but emotional trauma is really when we feel unsafe or at risk of being harmed in an emotional way. And we can have had experiences with physical trauma. Yes, we definitely can have those and also have emotional trauma from it. But we can also have emotional trauma without having ever experienced any kind of physical abuse or any physical experiences. So these adversities that I'm calling childhood traumas or emotional traumas are something that can definitely still stay with us in our adult years. And so what does that look like? How do we know that this could be happening? So I'm going to talk about 5 of those. And the first one is having fluctuating moods. Moods where one moment you're happy and you're laughing, the next minute you might be crying, or you might be very angry, or you might have emotions of rage. These fluctuating moods oftentimes have a connection with having dealt with emotional trauma. And what it really means is that there is some dynamics that do need to still be processed. And when we're dealing with having experiences of adversity or hardships that we've experienced, when we haven't addressed it, it does take processing it to move through it. Doesn't mean you have to relive it, but it's understanding the awareness that this is what's impacting you today, and so you moving through it. So being able to process these experiences is going to be important. This can come from working with a therapist or working with another person who works in a healing modality that can really help you to really start working on this part of you. Another way that this shows up is when we have relationships that end often. When we start a relationship, we might start it well and then it ends, but we don't have a lot of sustaining relationships. That's not always to blame, obviously, the person who's experienced the trauma, but it is to say that sometimes when we've dealt with emotional trauma, it can be difficult to connect very strongly to keep and adhere a relationship. It can be where we have our walls up, or we are, once something goes wrong, we flee because the vulnerability of being hurt can be so much that these are protective mechanisms that can be used in the midst of dealing with these emotional traumas. So having relationships because you do really desire relationships, and this human experience, we want relationships, but then when we're in them, it can be difficult to maintain them when we feel a threat of some sort can come back to make us feel like we're losing something or make us feel like, we can be harmed emotionally. Also, when we have difficulty with not thinking about the situations from the past. So if you've experienced something particular with emotional trauma, let's just say you were bullied. I was bullied, so I'm bringing that one up. Let's just say you were bullied as a child. As an adult, you might find yourself still thinking about those situations often. If you had a parent who really let you down or was verbally abusive to you, it may be something that you find yourself still thinking about those experiences as an adult because it hasn't been dealt with, right? The door hasn't been closed, the peace hasn't been made. You might believe a lot of what you experienced or what you were told. So it may come up in your mind a lot and you may replay it a lot. It's the third sign that you may be dealing with emotional trauma that still needs to be addressed and healed. I have 2 more. Trouble sleeping is really big. Now, trouble sleeping can come from a number of things, but oftentimes when there's trouble with sleeping, there can be a lot of emotional dynamics that are a part of that. It could be anxiety and fear. And oftentimes when we're up in our day and we're doing, sometimes that serves as a distraction for us. I don't know if you all can hear the car going by. It can serve as a distraction, but when we lay down and everything else is quieted, that can be a time where our mind gets to work and we start thinking about all the things or worrying about all the things. And it can be a situation where it is difficult to drift off to sleep. It makes it difficult. One thing that I tell a lot of people who I see is to create bedtime rituals for yourself, things that help your body to understand that you are now winding down for the day. And that could be doing things like taking a warm shower, drinking a warm sleepy time tea or chamomile tea, something that's going to help relax you, turning down the stimulus in your environment, so dimming the lights, turning off the electronics and televisions, maybe playing some type of relaxation music or something very soft, just to let the body understand that the stimulation is being taken away. Definitely not, utilizing our phones at least an hour before going to bed. And even looking into doing a meditation before sleep, just something else that can support you in calming your body, calming your mind, so that your body knows that it's time to go to sleep. And finally is when you've dealt with trauma or dealt with hardships, emotional hardships in earlier days, it can be a thing where you really seek validation from the people who may have been a part of contributing to these experiences. So if it was a parent that you didn't seek validation from, it could be really wanting so hard to get their validation now as an adult. Maybe you've made some major accomplishments and you want them to come to some type of event. And you're wanting to seek what was never received from someone who was very important. So that can be a way that this shows up in adult life, is that it becomes very important to seek validation from the people that maybe caused the harm in the first place. So these are 5 things to look at in terms of how trauma may still be a part of your experience and how to navigate those when it comes to dealing with wanting to get validation from people from the past. I would really encourage that this is about you getting validation for who it is that you are. Because part of this trauma or this emotional trauma that you've experienced is that you've come to believe whatever you told yourself about those experiences in your past. So more than seeking the validation from other people, where it can really leave you vulnerable, especially if they don't come around and give that validation, is really to be at a point where you start to correct the beliefs that you had about yourself based on someone else's opinion or what someone else contributed to making you feel. We chose to have the feeling about what happened. So there's a huge part in this for us to deconstruct what we believed based off of those experiences, so that then it's not really even needing validation from anyone else, because now you know who it is that you are. You've created this new definition of who you are. And when that's one that lies in confidence and self-assurance and reassurance on who you are, then you don't really need the validation from someone outside of you to come around and make this real for you. The beautiful thing about our brain is that we can retrain it. There is a term called neuroplasticity. And it really means, like, if you could think about the mind being plastic, meaning it's not concrete, it's not solid. Once things have happened, it's not just that and that's it and there's no change. Neuroplasticity, when I think of like plastic, it's like it can be reshaped, it can be remolded. We can rewire the brain that we have, even though we've had experiences from the past. We can do things to rewire our brain and have new experiences and new ways of experiencing this life based off of how we change our brain. And stick with me, as we will talk about more of those things on this channel. My whole goal on this channel is to empower people to know how much power we really do have for our mental well-being and our overall well-being once we get engaged in how to maximize our mind, how to maximize how we connect with spirit, and how to maximize how we connect in this physical body that we've been given in this life experience. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this with someone that you think it may be helpful for, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next video. All right, toodles.